Herzlich willkommen, warm welcome. It's nice to have you here back in the Hauhebeler Ufer. Nice to have you back at Berlinale Talents. And as we told you, so this week we only also want to challenge a little bit the idea of that online festival, this everywhere Berlinale Talents, because we are physically distanced, but we're not necessarily socially distanced. So it is very, very important for us also to keep in touch, keep bodily in contact with, of course, the 205 talents around the globe, but also with our public audience. And we thought, okay, let's see how we can bring that into the sessions that we have here, and how also in the topics that we discuss, and also, of course, what kind of people do we have to invite. And for today, we have two fantastic people here, two fantastic guests. On the one side, of course, it's Welket Bungué, who has a film this year in Forum Expand, and you will really get to know him much better during this session. But also, you will also get to know the moderator, the host, the person here in the studio today, which is Natascha Noack. She is a traveler between dance, language, film, everything, like what we need to know for today. So Natascha, I leave the floor to you, and I'm very, very happy to do that. So thank you very much for being here with us today. And I'm really enjoying the next 1.5 hours. Go ahead.
Welcome from my part also. I'm here in the beautiful Hau, and we were both beautifully introduced by Florian. Welket, you are in Belgium, I think.
Yes, I'm in Ghent, in Belgium, and I'm really glad to be here now, sharing this moment with all of you.
Yeah, many of you that we cannot see in the moment, far and near. And it's a little bit intimidating to know you're all out there, but we will try to connect as much as we can with you. Welket, you are shooting right now a film with Dorothea van der Bergen. It's fun because I did a live voiceover for one of her films, Rosie and Musa, 2 years ago at the Zurich Film Festival. So we have a nice connection. How's it going? Yes. You're not too tired?
I'm good, actually. This week we have mostly night shifts, so fortunately I can attend this amazing invitation from the Berlinale Film Festival, and then after it I will go to the set.
We are very happy also. Welket, many people know you as Franz in Berlin Alexanderplatz from last year's Berlinale. But you are not only an actor. You are a director, a producer, you are a writer, you are a performer, and people call you a multi-artist. I really prefer the term poly-artist because it creates a deeper connection between the different things that you do. How would you introduce yourself?
I would introduce myself saying that I am Welket Bungué. I born in Guinea Bissau, and since then I've been traveling all over. So meanwhile, I discovered that I have the intention and the pleasure on telling stories, on doing storytelling. That's why I, in a way, developed my several skills to do that. And to say poly-artist or multi-artist, it's something that, in a way, can synthesize that.
Yes, you made,
Yes.
I think, almost 20 short films in the past years, and we will get to know them a little bit today. Of course, our subject, the politics of the moving body, is a large one, a big one. While I was preparing this talk with you, I realized that movement, the term of movement in your work, has so many different aspects. Of course, we have the moving body, we have the dance, we have the walking, we have the running, we have the acting, but then also we have the traveling, the movement of the travel in your biography, but also in your work. And then we also have the political movement, the movement of resistance, of rebellion. So I think we have a lot to talk about, and we want to share this stage with you also at two distinct moments to open up to discussions and questions and commentaries. And whenever this moment comes, please just raise your digital hand so we can see you and navigate your questions and commentaries. Welket, my very first question would be, you started out as an actor. When did you realize that you felt the need to expand beyond acting and go into other fields of the artistic creation?
That moment occurred in more or less 2005, which was a moment where I could participate in a workshop for amateurs, a theater workshop for amateurs. This happened in a city called Beja, and the person who, in a way, was my godfather in theater is called David Silva. So we did an interesting and immersive workshop during two weeks. And it happened that eventually we decided to create an amateur theater company called Homelet. And we did our debut with the Hamlet play from Shakespeare. Okay. That was the moment where, for the first time, I could realize that we can tell stories through our bodies, which are not just a result of our memories, but is also a creation and a construction of what we want to tell to the others, you know. And then, of course, I had to keep studying and meeting different people in different circumstances, mostly, I would say, circumstances where I was out of my bubble, of my protection bubble, because I think that is in those moments where we can really reveal what is the inner of ourselves.
So is the fact of changing roles also for your possibility to put yourself outside the bubble each time?
Yes. In theater, this happens because we are, in a way, conjured to play, to put our personality in a circumstance which is not common to our daily life, okay? And of course, it's within a convention of the theatrical space, you know. But when we are writing, for example, or when we are producing a movie from the roots, you know, we are putting ourselves in this different perspective, but we are also having the chance to tell the story through our point of view. And this is the main, to me, the main difference between being an actor and between being an author.
And would there be something in your body-mind relationship that changes whenever you change a role? I mean, is it very different for you each time?
I would say that Welket stays the same, okay? But then in a way, I put more in evidence my skills as someone who can look with distance to an object when I am acting, when I am working as a director, for example. And then when I am working as a actor or performer, I must be really into the object that we are working with, you know. But the thing is, when I'm working as an actor, I don't separate the idea of a construction of a character and what is the actor. I don't believe in that. So, but the challenge is that to be an actor and to be a convincing actor, ideally you must have accumulated a lot of deep experiences in your life. Otherwise, you would not have the minutiae, you know, to fulfill the character's need, depending on the role that you are playing, you know, because the role defines the character, and not the character defines the attitude of the character in the way that he must play itself within that role.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about taking a distance, and what's interesting in a number of your short films is that you take that distance through a filmed performance. There's a performance, and then you film that performance, so you have like a distance from your own performance, but at the same time, it's somehow the message becomes much stronger because you also direct the focus of the spectator into the performance. So your point of view and your message becomes very, very strong. And we will see an example of that. We will show you, and we have the privilege of a little bit of time, so we can show you one of Welket's short film in its entirety. And it will be Jaw Intervention. I think it's from 2019. And maybe you can introduce your film.
Jaw Intervention originally is to say the title is Intervenção Já. It's a result of a performance that I did just once in Morro dos Prazeres, which is in Brazil, in the city of Rio de Janeiro. So we did it with the intention of filming it. So I invited a filmmaker, a camera woman, a photographer, which was Christine Birk, and a musician. So we were all working for the same objective, which was to record that moment. And then after we captured that moment, we had to edit that happening, okay, as a short film. And there we were clearly aiming to produce a movie that would, in a way, reflect the energy of that unique moment, but also it would need to be constructed through this sense of the Aristotelic arc of doing, such as introduction, development, and conclusion. Okay, but this movie I called an intervention film also because it is formed as a piece. To me, it is a kind of movie that appeals for a reaction, for an intervention from the side of the audience. Okay, as we will see, the film is based on a study report that tells us that in 2015, 35 of the murdered people in Brazil were young people, and 75% of that amount, they were Black Afro-Brazilians. So this is the starting point to do this movie. So now I think we can watch it.
Let's see jaw intervention. Okay. Welket, I think this film is a very good starting point for talking about what you conceive as the peripheral body, and which is very different from the marginalized body because you work with this in the context of self-empowerment. Could you talk about this a little bit?
Yes. Then, of course, there is a lot of, how do you say, of meanings which are connected to the terms marginal and peripheric. You know, the 8 years I lived in Brazil, I was used to listen this expression of peripheral as prejudice. But then recently, those who were called peripheric, they subverted the use of the expression and they started to call themselves as periphericals, like peripheral in a way. And what I understood was that I was traveling back and forth from Brazil to Portugal. And I understood that the denomination of nomad, it's not fitting anymore to what I do, you know. And I understood that maybe I am a peripheral person, you know, which means that I'm always arriving in a place, which means that I'm coming from another place, you know, because when the Brazilians, mainly those who live outside of the city center, they have to come from the regions where they live to the city center. And this is why they were called periphericals. Of course, there is a prejudice behind this word because it's mainly connected to those who have a lower income, and in a way they are more dependent on the support from the state, in a way, you know. But mainly performatic, in the sense of the performativity, which is connected to this term. I could understand that they are called periphericus because they come from one place to the other. And the most interesting thing is that those periphericals, they are the one who makes the production inside of what we call the center of the city or the central business district. They are the ones who are the labor force that make it keeps running on, you know. That's why I had to adopt this term to call myself as a peripheral body, but adding the consciousness of what is the reason why I can travel to these several places. Okay, because this happens because in a way I am Afro-European, and I use the privilege of being European so that I can travel all over. Okay, which is something different from the position of those who are called the periphericals in Brazil. They move to the center because it's the only place where they can work and get paid for the work they are doing. As a peripheral body, as I'm saying, is someone who understood that actually he can move throughout the places where he needs to go, and either you don't have to assume his, how would I say, his identity as someone that just belongs to one specific place, but yes, as someone who have its identity in a way spread or diluted all over.
So,
Because his mindset is more globalized in a way than nationalistic.
so he becomes almost like a messenger, like somebody who transports information also from one place to the other, or his experiences of that?
I mean, I became someone who got this consciousness. And once I am an artist, well, I'm not IT, but if I would be IT, following this concept, I would use my own experiences in a way to transform, to modify in a better way the environment where I am working with among those who are my peers or those who have the interest on listening what I have to say, you know. And the big difference to me between the one who assumes itself as a peripheral body or as a peripheral person and the one who is called a peripheral or peripheral, or which is actually to be marginalized. To call someone periférico in Brazil, it's like you are saying that he is a marginal. Okay, the thing is that the marginal is a result of an imposition of the structure of the society, which mostly takes place from the position of those who have in a way, the privilege to influence what is the establishment, or what do we call as a system establishment, you know. And in my point of view, I call them, well, I'm developing this thinking in Portuguese. I call them centro corpo impostor, which means like the central imposter body, you know, because he works mainly to save its own privileges and all the rights that he forged by taking profit out of the labor work of the others, you know, and then in a way to keep defining this center as a privileged spaces, or as a place of excesses, you know. He defined the others who are out of this psychological and territorial space as marginal, edge, marginal, and so on and so on, you know. So to me, the marginalized body is the body that, of course, is suffering discrimination, or to be more clear, oppression, in the sense of the political sense, or in, how would I say, in the civic sense, you know. But then he doesn't understand it because he didn't wake, or he wasn't saved in a way by those who are empowered and those who can tell him that his difference is, or his personality, or to be different, is something that makes him unique. And what this marginalized person really needs to do is to, in a way, to find a way to subvert this condition, which means to be in contact with those who were marginalized before. And then now that they know what is their subjective values, okay, they can empower the others. Basically, this is a conception that comes out from a position of a traveler, a citizen that that was, in this case, I'm talking about myself. I was in the presence of a lot of inequalities, either in the context of the social life in Portugal, in Lisbon, okay, because it's clear the differences between the territory that is occupied by the diasporas in Lisbon and the territory that is occupied in the center of the city. And when you compare this to the reality in Rio de Janeiro, for example, it's also clear to find some resemblances, you know, but of course in another magnitude. Trying to deconstruct this prejudicial word, which is peripheral, against my Brazilian people that I love.
Yeah.
I started to use it in favor of something that
in the sense of empowerment,
will be more positive.
Yes, definitely. And I think there will probably be many questions about that concept also from the people watching. But first, we would like maybe to give a very small glimpse into how you actually create. And you were willing to propose a simple, basic exercise that could be like a starting point for you.
Yes.
I just wanted to say for people, everybody can participate and just follow the exercise, but some people could also appear on the screen at the end, so be actively with us, and you can just raise a digital hand if you want to participate in that sense. Okay, so that could be like 8 to 10 people.
So this exercise is quite simple. Basically, I'm trying to show you how do I use movement, okay, to reproduce semiotic meanings, okay, that are in a way they bring many more meanings than just what I can have as an objective when I do a certain movement, you know. And I'm talking about this because I use this technique to play in giant intervention. We will start with something that someone told me that is called babulação in Portuguese. Like, imagine, when we are talking, we call it conversation. But what we're gonna do is blah, 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 babulation, you know? For example, imagine that what I'm thinking is to present myself, basically saying, hello, my name is Welket Bungué. I'm 33 years old. I born in Guinea Bissau. You can go with me. Of course, we do this for you. Now we would go to another phase where we try to use just the head and the hand gestures to present yourselves. In a third phase, we would be able to use the full body, okay? And let's try to not use the voice, neither the head, neither the hands. It's hard to not use the head, But then now let's go to the last phase, okay? But not talking, not saying words, but we can use this bubbleation. Okay, and let's see what do we find. This is quite simple, and we can maybe see who was trying to do it on screen.
Okay, we don't have people actually on screen right now.
Okay.
I think they're probably a little bit shy, which is understandable. If they were in the same space with that, it would be different. But maybe you can elaborate just a little bit on how you precisely used this in developing something for jaw intervention.
Okay, the thing is, to jaw intervention, what I used was, how do you say, concrete movements, you know. I didn't try to interpret movements that would represent what I wanted to say. So I wrote imagine 3 lines that says, the performer is doing a workout before starting to run or before starting to fight properly. The performer is being, how do you say, shot in a way with several gunshots over his body. The performer is skip roping, you know, skipping rope, like jumping. And then this in the image, basically it would be this, you know, either it would be this, okay, or it would be this, you know, or either it would be this, or then this, okay. These are all concrete, how do you say, actions that if they are showed in a context of a movie with the favela in the background, with this dramatic music, and also with close-ups where we see more the body sweating in a way, and then well, a lot of other elements which are present. These lead us to understand what is the message behind it, you know. And then this was what I was trying to show you in this exercise, that the next phase would be to understand what this movement means. Okay, what is this? Okay, what is this? You know, because once I told you that the first thing that I was doing is to present myself, we understood that all these codes were a way of expression through a language that aims to communicate this information, okay, which is, I am Welket Bungué, I'm 33 years old, I born in Guinea Bissau, and so on and so on. But I can tell you that this, this was something that I was doing in the morning because the lamp, okay, it wasn't spotting me correctly, you know? And this was before, because I had to set up this place, okay, so that I can be in the right place to receive the light and to talk with you without being out of the frame, for example. No? So it's funny, but are concrete movements, you know, that define our perception of something. This is why I don't believe in the construction of characters, okay? Because I believe that the role and the actions within the narrative they define the character that we are embodying in the movie, in a way.
Welket, what do you think? We could have like a short break for participants to think about what they would like to ask or comment on about the film or what you were talking about, and then we come back here, maybe 3 minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Okay, so we'll have some music, and the participants can raise their digital hands if they want to ask questions or comments after the pause.
Binga, 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 jibinga, bakulo, jibinga, binga, 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 jibinga, kunenen zamba, kuzamba. O futuro é agora, o pretérito está perfeito. Não mexe mais, aceita o meu nome, voz de tom, sobrenome diferente dos pais, impronunciável. Espírito Santo, o lado humano está pronto para dar à luz. 2013 anos depois de Jesus, Deus ex machina, no meio da multidão sou aquele de capuz. O estranho mundo estranho, onde não há rosa sem cruz. Sensações claras, sons incomuns. Acesso à planta através da sua raiz. Vou ao centro da terra à procura de samples em discos vinis. Júlio Verne, São Francisco de Assis. Padre do deserto com a marca de flor de lis. Criminoso até ao osso, da cabeça aos pés. Glossolalia, consulta ao espírito se não percebes o português. Deus deu a palavra, alguém deu o número e eu dei o meu preço. Já não sei o caminho de regresso. Estou fora da mente, frente para serpente. Qual é a relação entre o medo e o sucesso? Sintonia e corda pura rezo. Devia ter cuidado com o que peço, mas parece que pouco aprendo, só envelheço. Novo começo para mostrar cá um todo, Deus deu-me um terço. E o bad gesso. Passei a luva já que ninguém sai daqui ileso. Glossolalia, herói depois da morte, vilão no processo.
I really like this song there.
Me too. Yes, dear people, this is the chance to ask some questions or to comment on what you have seen. So if you wish to do so, raise your digital hands and maybe we can take a couple of more questions, but I think we have a first one here. Go ahead, Katrin.
Hi, thank you so much for this session. It's been brilliant. I loved what you were saying about sort of like the non-verbal side of communication and movement. I'm trying to write less into my scripts and sort of do less with words and try to do more with motion. Is there any any books or any articles or anything that you would recommend as a next step for finding out more about this? Because this has been so interesting. Thanks.
Catherine, this has been, how do you say, a personal research since then, you know? But sometimes it happens because it has to do with the production limitations, you know? Not in the case of giant intervention, because I think the images are strong enough, okay? to really communicate what we aim to, what we want to say, you know. But as an exercise, I think the first step is to don't be interpretative. Like when we want to use the movements and the body, we should know, I mean, inside of us what we want to say. But the hardest part of this exercise is not pretending to explain it to the others. Okay, you do, and if it's possible, do it with how do you say, with movements that are bolded in what you have inside of you. With this, I want to say that imagine that you have to repeat a certain movement 10 times. You would do the same movement 10 times. But every time that you repeat it, you change the intention on doing it. You will see that with one movement, you can say 10 different stories. Okay? This is a good way as a start. Okay? And of course, once you have a choreography, you can experiment this even better.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Katrin. I think we have another question from Vanessa. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello, Welket. Thank you so much for sharing your methodology with us. I'm curious to see how you go about documenting everything that you create for each role. If you keep a log of these gestures, or if you record them for future roles, how do you go about documenting your process?
Actually, the document. Actually, this is a good question, because I started to use cinema as a medium to fix and to archive my how do you say, my body of work, because I moved to Portugal with 2 years old, although my father wrote a book, but there is not that much of what was the knowledge of my ancestors and of my father that I could nowadays read and understand, fully who were them, So I started to film, okay, to record, to save my interventions, but sometimes I start the processes on writing. To write for me is really important, and but then before the writing moment, there is an organic and long way of reflection. For example, I intend to talk about something or to produce something, and every meetings, every people that I get to know, I'm trying to convert this new knowledge or information to the object that I am pretending to create. And then after this, I feel I feel that I can write about it, and after writing it, I have a formal material that I can share to those whom I would like to work with. Okay, but either I work as a director that makes fictional movies, okay, and there we have the chance for the repetition and so on. But in performances, in projects such as giant intervention, for example, it happens just once. This means that you really need to be conscious about what you want to do, where is the place you are, and of course to conjure the orishas with you. This is something that happened, for example, in giant intervention, right? The colors that we are using, like yellowish, white, and then the red, they are connected with Yansan Oshun and Ogun.
The Afro-Brazilian goddess. Yeah.
Yes.
Goddess and gods. Yeah. Okay. Welket, I think we could go on and see a little bit more of your work, even if it's a short glimpse. Maybe we will not have the time for Bastian and for the other clip. Which one do you think is more appropriate for right now? Which one?
I think I would like to share. Well, once I just showed you a work which has a motivation on the violence that was happening in Brazil, that it's still happening, unfortunately, against the black bodies. Now I would like to show you 2 clips of Bastian. Okay. First, we can see the violence again, but in the context of the fiction. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the next one, my suggestion of gathering and harmony.
So we have first the violence clip and then the love representation clip. So we just have to inform the technicians that we will skip one clip entirely, and then we will turn around the 2 clips of Bastian. So the one that was second is first, and the other one is second. And I hope it will work out, but I'm confident. And for you all out there, if some other question arises or some comments, I think Florian, he will try to let me know and we will make it possible. Okay, let's go.
Go.
Onde é que está o teu irmão? Onde é que ele se escondeu com a nossa paca? Hã?
Olá, mas não tens o meu dinheiro, estás-me a ligar para quê?
Eu preciso que me arranjes mais produto para vender. Este bairro para mim já morreu.
Bom. Bem, estou a ver. Sabes que podes sempre contar comigo. Só que desta vez vai sair mais caro, miúdo. Mas passa aí que eu arranjo qualquer coisa.
Está-se bem. O mal é como uma semente à vida de luz. Sempre que o usares, ele crescerá até que faça parte de ti.
Meninos, eu este mês vou precisar de mais dinheiro. Gastei o dinheiro todo em medicamentos.
Nós sabemos, Dona Agostina.
Vocês sabem. Vocês sabem. Mas não vos vejo fazer nada.
Mas nós fazemos, avó. Um dia vou ganhar boi de guita a jogar futebol.
Futebol, coitadinho. Não é o futebol que nos paga as contas, filho. Gandulos. Vocês são gandulos. Gandulos. Vocês querem é que eu morra. Para me ficarem com tudo o que é meu.
Vou tratar disso, Dona Agostina. Vou arranjar um trabalho a sério e vou deixar de ir às aulas de pintura. Agora coma, por favor.
Mano, vês? Ganhamos os gajos 10 a 5. E à tarde vamos jogar outra vez. Ou se não posso?
Pode. Vai lá, repara o prato.
Tchau.
Okay, we had a small confusion here about the clips.
It's all good.
It's all good. You were trying to comment, I think, and we didn't hear you. You were commenting on the first one. So would you just care to maybe put these two excerpts into a context of the film?
Yes, the thing is, Bastian is my first short film as a director, okay? And this happens in 5 years after I left the boarding school, okay? And then it happened after I got the contact with the youth people that lives in this fictional neighborhood, but they exist really. And then I felt that there is a lot of other kind of profiles and dreams that are more invisible in that place, you know. That's why I found that a man from that region, from that part of the city, would have been an interesting character to have the wish to become a painter, you know, which is something unusual in the African diaspora community. I might say, at least in Lisbon. And basically, what happens in this movie is that we have this family they have this woman, which is the adoptive grandmother, okay? And they both live with her. And in a way, Bastian wants to be a painter. But before he was dealing substances, and then he didn't pay it to the bosses, and then he used the money to buy frames and inks so that he could paint, you know. And then suddenly this violence, in a way, they come to find Bastian. They cannot find him, and then as a way of pressuring him to show up, they hurt the kid, Zezito. Okay, and then basically they have to understand if they would find money to pay this bill, or if they would have to revenge, or if they would have to leave the town. But I wanted to show you this movie because, of course, it's my first short film as a director, but also because this is fiction, and the other one, it is a performance which is really based on true facts, you know. But in the same way, I needed to touch this sensible aspect of this reality, which is in many cases the violence. But on another hand, there is a love structure that sometimes it's not celebrated, but it really exists.
What is the relationship between the old woman and the two brothers?
The thing is, in the story we don't see it, but the background is that this old woman was the best friend of their mother. Their mother left already; she died. Okay, so they became adopted by this old woman, and she is more or less at the end of her days, but they are the only company to each other, and symbolically, this is, to me, a kind of reconnection to a lost relation between the diaspora and the Portuguese culture, because in a way, after the colonial wars, the Portuguese, they stepped back. They moved back to the country, and of course they were at the end of a totalitarian era ruled by Salazar. Then Salazar he washed all the relations and the memories that would represent a not easy but possible relation between the Africans and the Portuguese civil people who were living in the African countries. So in a way, this debut movie tried also to touch this aspect of this part of the memory of the Portuguese with African people.
Yes, in the first part of the clip, we see the violence directly cut into the man walking through the hallway with the white saints on the wall. How much weight did you want to put into this juxtaposition?
Of course, in the sense of the image, I wanted to see Bastian giving its back to all these canons, because those references are not, they don't really represent the reality of Bastian in that case, or the reality of many people that are part of this diaspora community. Of course, the image has a lot of meanings, but I am not specifically against the religion, but I have a lot of doubts about how the extremely or fundamentalist religious people try to use their beliefs to convert others and in a way to extract their subjectivity, there is a lot of, interpretations, possible interpretations, but also this wall of religious figures, it's not made by Bastian, it's made by the old woman, that in a way represents a lot of things before these two young brothers. Yeah.
Thanks. I have many, many more things I would like to ask Welket, but I also want to privilege your questions and commentaries, so there's still the chance to raise your digital hand if you want to ask something or comment. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how your different films somehow talk to each other, they communicate between them, because as I said, you made almost 20 short films in the last years, and how do they connect to form a body of work?
I must tell you something. In 2019, I was in a festival, Doc Lisboa, and I met Madeleine Moulineau. She represents a director called Kevin Jerome Everson. He has a movie at the Forum next month. That man, he has more or less 180 short films. Yeah. Once I got to know him, I felt, oh, this is nothing. We are just starting, you know. And then, but what I can tell is, I think what in a way links my body of work is my subjectivity. I mean, as an individual, you know, because I am who I am because of the experiences I could attend and I could live, you know. And once I'm making movies that I feel, honestly, they of course, they start from my point of view, but their intentions is to spread all over the world and most of all to find people that would recon themselves through the movie, through the experience with my movies, you know. This means that these movies, they are, how would I say, diverse in the content, but also in the processes that origins them, you know. My intention is that, imagine in 20 years, if I look back to my repertoire, that I can feel that more than still making sense or not the movie, is that I really can say that I was really honest and transparent on the intentions behind the filmmaking, you know. That's why I have the, how do you say, the care and in a way I'm cautious on doing every time that I am working about certain topics, because of course I don't know everything, you know. I just know what I perceive, you know, what I can understand, you know. And when I don't understand something, you know, I use ways of expression, you know, to reveal this discomfort, or either to appeal for some help for the side of those who can watch it, for the side of those who can become in dialogue with me.
Mm-hmm. Welket, time is flying. There's so much more to be discussed, but maybe for now, to wrap it up for today, we can show a very short sequence of the film that is has been selected for Forum Expanded, Mudanza. And I noticed that on the poster there is this this pun with Mudanza, that you changed the words around. So maybe would you just talk a little bit about the title before we start, and maybe also about the character of the politician, so people get context.
Yeah, so Mudanza, literally translated, means to change, okay? And by the way, my name is Welket, which means in Balanta to try again, to change. But the title in Portuguese, Mudança, I intended to change it also. That's why I subverted the order of the letters, saying Mudança, which translated would means one dance. Okay, but this happens because this movie itself, it appeals for change, like to this disruptiveness. Okay, either in the way of producing cinema, either in the way of representing, putting in representation bodies in front of the camera, and also the voices that can speak and what they can say. And that, for that, I in a way, I allied myself to the parliamentary politician Joacim Catar Moreira, because she is a really intelligent woman. She is genuine, and she has all these values and how do you say, gravitas that real mother has, you know. And we needed this to be the structure of the speech we wanted to say through this movie. okay? And that's why I invited her, not just because she is, how do you call this in German, systemrelevant worker or something like
Essential worker, yeah.
Yeah, essential worker, because this was, the main challenge that we had, because when I received the invitation to do this movie, they wanted me to bring an essential worker, which basically would be a nurse. Basically, this is a way of talking, because it's a really important and, as the word says, relevant work. And it would be like a nurse, a doctor, a public transport driver. I mean, those workers that could not stop working during the lockdown. But I tried to go further. So I thought that Joacine represents this strong and bold agenda that wants to bring inclusion, more tolerance to the Portuguese and its diaspora and its various diasporas.
You know what I find very beautiful is that, I mean, it's obvious to everybody that art is political, but you somehow make like a gift to her defining what she does as art, like to define her politics as art. And I hope you can see maybe a glimpse of that when we show now just a short sequence of Mudança.
Os bisagós não separam o indivíduo do seu ambiente. Isto foi algo que a Revolução Industrial originou no Ocidente, que é a separação do indivíduo do seu meio. Então, a ecologia que nós hoje procuramos nos países ditos desenvolvidos, ela está tão enraizada, tão naturalizada e tão forte noutras culturas, nomeadamente as indígenas, nos quais ainda se pode encontrar esta relação com o humano, mas entendendo que o humano não é independente dos outros seres não humanos. O humano não é independente dos locais onde se movimenta, não é independente dos seus ideais, dos pensamentos que norteiam a atmosfera onde se encontra. Obviamente que eu ainda hoje não acredito que os filhos sejam essenciais à vida de uma mulher, que sejam fundamentais para que ela se realize. Há várias formas de nos realizarmos, mas a minha filha é a minha maior realização, porque ela também me ensina muitas coisas. E foi por causa dela que eu decidi enfrentar o que andei a evitar enfrentar durante muito tempo, que é a minha gaguez, não é? Que foi a necessidade de fazer disso até uma energia de mudança.
I really wish everybody the chance to see this beautiful film in its entirety. Welket, I think we have to say goodbye very soon. Maybe quickly, what are your next projects? What are the next adventures?
Well, we are finishing a feature film here, as we talked before. It's called Rethink. And I'm finishing my first book, which is autobiographical essay, where I immerse into this explanation of what is the self-portraying cinema, and of course, what is this peripheral body and this marginalized body, all as a method and also as an attitude on doing cinema. Okay, I'm writing it in Portuguese language, and I think that more or less in the short term, I will have to travel back to Portugal to finish a short film, which is the end of the trilogy of Bastian and Arriaga.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to reading your book and maybe help translating it into German one day.
Who knows?
Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you all for assisting, for watching, participating. Thank you, Florian, all the technicians, and yes, enjoy the last days of Talents and keep dreaming.
Yes,
Goodbye.
I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you all for being here, and I hope that you are staying healthy and that we could keep watching cinema. And I'm looking forward to see what will happen in June this year. Thanks for everything.
And just to tune out a little bit, we'll play another piece of music from your film. Goodbye,
nice.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
O futuro é agora, porteiro está perfeito. Não mexe mais, aceita o meu nome, voz do tom, sobrenome diferente dos pais, impronunciável. Espírito Santo, o lado humano está pronto para dar à luz. 2013 anos depois Jesus, Deus ex machina, no meio da multidão sou aquele de capuz. O estranho mundo estranho, não há rosa sem cruz. Sensações claras, sons incomuns. Acesso à planta através da sua raiz. Vou ao centro da terra à procura de samples em discos vinis. Júlio Verde, São Francisco de Assis. Padre do deserto com marca de flor de lis. Criminoso até ao osso, da cabeça aos pés. Glossolália, consulta ao espírito se não percebes o português. Deus deu a palavra, alguém deu o número e eu dei o meu preço. Já não sei o caminho de regresso, estou fora da mente, frente para serpente. Qual é a relação entre o medo e o sucesso? Sinto unicórnio pura rezo. Devia ter cuidado com o que peço, mas parece que pouco aprendo, só envelheço. Novo começo, para mostrar cá um todo, Deus deu-me um terço. E o beto gesso, passei a luva já que ninguém sai daqui ileso. Glossolália, herói depois da morte, vilão no processo.
Ibane